Hello students, I am Dinesh Udupi. This is section 46 of Molecular Biology, Evolution and Ethology paper, and we are studying ethology part of the paper. In this session, we are going to study a little bit about biological rhythms. Biological rhythms, which are also called biological clock. What is biological clock? Biological clock is the time sense of the organism. Uh, you know, we have clocks to tell us the time, what time it is of the day, like this. So, in the same way, in the nature, animals and of course all the organisms, including plants, they have the inbuilt clock, right? So, we call it as biological clock. Let us try to understand how it works and how it functions. The biological clock refers to the periodic or cyclic phenomena in organisms and their adaptation to solar and lunar related rhythms. Now remember, when it comes to the clock, our clock normally represents a day. Of course, our clocks represent half day, 1 to 12. Two rounds will represent one day. The animals, plants, all of us live on the earth. And our earth rotates around the sun, and because of this rotation we have something called a day. One complete day includes a period of light and a period of darkness. Normally we use the term daytime and night. Daytime and night. So when the sunlight is present, that part is called day, and when the sun is gone, it is complete darkness and we call it as night. And then we have something called month, which is represented by the moon, right? So one complete cycle of moon is represented as month. Then we have year, right? When our earth completes one complete circle, right, that is going to be called as year. So like this, we are governed by the celestial phenomenon: day, month and year. So we organisms, all the organisms, animals, plants, etc., are affected by these three events. And according to that, the lifestyle, I mean the behaviors, the activities, etc., are adjusted or modified or affected, whatever you can say. So therefore, comparative to that, right, or you can say in accordance with those celestial activities, celestial phenomenons, animals or plants also have the same cycles in their body: daily cycle, monthly cycle or yearly cycle. Of course we don't find all the three cycles in the same organism, but each and every organism shows one or the other type of uh, cycles. So these internal cycles where the changes occur cyclically, if the cyclical change is of about 24 hours, then we call it as daily cycle, circadian cycle. If the cyclical change is comparable to a month, right, it's of a 1 month period approximately, then we call it as lunar cycle. If the seasonal changes, if the changes repeated, they are repeated every year, then it is going to be called as annual cycle, like this, right? So these cycles are known as biological rhythms. Chronobiology is the field of biology which deals with the study of biological rhythms. So there is a branch of biology called chronobiology, and it is mainly associated with the study of biological clocks. Of course, chronobiology is also associated with the evolutionary study also. Circadian rhythms. As I already explained in the previous slide, circadian rhythms are physical, mental, and behavioral changes that follow a 24-hour cycle. You can consider circadian cycle as a daily cycle, right? One day is made up of approximately 24 hours. And the major events, as I already told you, in a day are the day time and night time. So these natural processes, I'm talking about the physical, mental, and behavioral processes, respond primarily to light and dark and affect most living things, including animals, plants, and microbes. You just observe the nature, you just observe the animals, including human beings. We have different behaviors in daytime and in nighttime. So our behavior pattern is in synchronization with the 24-hour cycle of the nature. You can say the changes in the sun, the changes in the light and the changes in our activity, they are coordinated. One example, right, of a light related circadian rhythm is sleeping at night and being awake during the day. When the sun rises, we also get up. With the sun moving upwards and more light coming, we start doing our activity. You see the same thing in the animal world, you see the same thing in the plant world also, right? The activity is more during the daytime because light is available. And in the evening, when the sun sets, the activities come to a halt. Birds will return to their nests, plant will change its behavior, humans will come back to the house, right? Then in the night, normally the animals go to sleep because in the dark, most of the animals, of course, nocturnal animals' behavior is opposite. Except the nocturnal animals, all other animals will go to the sleep in the night. Of course, you just don't add humans to this. Nowadays, because of electricity, I think our behavior is little changed. Even in the night, we are awake, we do work because of artificial things. But in natural conditions, the animals will go to the sleep during the night. So this is the best example of circadian rhythm, right? It's a 24-hour cycle. Next, there is one more behavior called hibernation. The animals which live in cold climatic conditions, the northern and southern hemispheres, the winter becomes very severe. So it goes below -40, -60, etc., where the animals cannot survive. Now, some animals like birds, they have the ability to fly and they will fly away from the that particular habitat. But what about the animals which cannot travel, which cannot move away from that place? So they have to survive. And since the cold becomes very, very severe, they have developed one behavior called hibernation, which is called winter sleeping. They go to the sleep. Normally, they make a burrow, and in that burrow, they will sleep for the full winter. Now, there are many advantages. One thing is in the winter, in the severe winter, normally they will not find food. So by going into the sleep, they can reduce their metabolic activity and they can survive with the stored food material, right? So this behavior is repeated every year, every winter. This is also an example of circa-annual rhythm. Then estivation, which is also called summer sleeping. The animals which live in very hot climatic conditions, the same thing is repeated. To avoid extreme heat in the summer, some animals go to summer sleep. Again, they make a burrow deep below the soil, which is comparatively cooler, like squirrels and other animals, and they will sleep for the whole summer. And they will come out once the conditions become favorable. So this behavior is also repeated every year. This is also an example of circa-annual rhythm. Then very famous phenomenon called migration in birds. Migratory behavior is repeated every year. So it is a yearly behavior. So birds migrate from one place to another place, maybe from one part of the country to another part, from one country to another country, like this. This behavior is also seasonal and it is repeated every year. Therefore, migratory behavior of birds can be considered as an example of circa-annual rhythm. Next one is lunar cycle, which is nothing but a monthly cycle, which is controlled by the changes in the moon. What is the moon cycle? Let us start with full moon. full moon is the dark, a completely dark phase, and then slowly the moon starts appearing, and after 15 days you will find the full moon day, where you can see the full moon with bright light. After 15th day, after full moon, again the moon starts waning. So the size of the moon goes on becoming less and less. And at the end of the month, again there will be a new moon day. So like this, the cycle of new moon and full moon is completed in 1 month, approximately of 1 month time. A biorhythm that corresponds with the lunar cycle is called lunar. The biorhythm that corresponds with the monthly cycle is called lunar cycle. It is normally of 29.5 days. The reproductive cycle of many organisms, especially marine organisms, are linked to changing levels of moonlight and the tidal cycle, both of which are governed by the phases of the moon. So this lunar cycle is normally exhibited by the marine animals, especially the breeding behavior of the uh, marine organisms. Now, what is the relationship between the marine environment and the moon? You know, the phase of moon is going to control the tides. Full moon day is going to, you will witness high tides in the full moon, and you will witness very low tides in the new moon. So the phase of the moon has a direct relation with the tides, high tide and low tide, right? So therefore, since the moon cycle affects the tidal cycle of the ocean, the marine animals show this lunar cycle. Normally, we don't find many examples of lunar cycle in the terrestrial animals which live away from the ocean. So that's about the biological cycles which are found in the animals. There are daily cycles which are commonly called circadian cycle, then we have lunar cycle, and then we have annual cycle. These biological cycles are examples of how the organism's behavior, how the organism's body activities are in correlation with the environmental changes. As I already mentioned in the first slide, since the animals and plants live on this earth, the changes that occur in the environment, they are definitely going to affect the organisms, whether it is plant or animal. And three important changes we observe in the nature. Periodical changes I am talking. One is daily change, that is controlled by sun. Then we have monthly change, that is controlled by moon. And the last one is yearly cycle, which is caused due to the rotation of earth around the sun. So according to these celestial changes, the animal behavior, the animal's internal clock is also adjusted to show some functions. Everyday activities show circadian rhythms, and some breeding cycles follow the lunar cycle in marine animals, and breeding cycles of some terrestrial animals follow the annual cycle. So that's about for this session. Thank you.